MG's first ute is here. It's called the U9 and it does things a bit differently to some of the other utes in its segment. It's a unibody design with some intriguing inclusions, including a optional mid-gate that can extend the tray a long way. And in this review, I'm going to show you that. I'm going to tell you about what it's like to drive and tell you some great alternatives as well. So let's check it out, shall we? It's MG U9 time. The MG U9 ute has 3 different grades available at launch, and let me tell you, the pricing, it's enticing. The entry-level grade is called Explore. It's a 4x4 with 5 seats and some pretty good inclusions, and it starts at $52,990. We don't have any imagery of it just yet, but $52,990 drive away is the price that you'll pay for that entry-level grade. Now, it's going to come with things like 18-inch alloy wheels, LED lighting, LED tail lights, and on the inside you're going to find fake leather, heated front seats, twin 12.3-inch screens, Apple CarPlay, and a few good features beyond that. And then there's all the safety stuff, which I'll tell you about later on. And then if you spend an extra $3,000, you can get into the Explore X grade. It adds a few good features, 19-inch alloy wheels, and it gets sat-nav on the inside. It also gets connected services, which the base model doesn't get, and it gets a surround view camera system as standard as well. So that one could be the sweet spot for plenty of buyers, but if you want everything you can possibly get, you'll have to go for the top-spec model, the Explore Pro, which is $69,990 drive away, and it adds heaps of other goodies. Now, this is representative of that vehicle right here, and it comes with things like a big panoramic glass roof, 20-inch wheels, ambient lighting, a high-definition 360 camera. You also get heated rear window seats, ventilated front seats, a massage driver seat, suede headliner, and real leather seat trim as well. So for that kind of money, it is a very appealing thing. I'll tell you all about the powertrain and much more than that as we go along, but let's consider some alternatives that you might want to consider if you're thinking about spending this kind of money on a pickup truck just like this. Okay, if you didn't know, the LDV Terror 9 is the same truck as this, but with a different badge and with some different specs. But the Terror 9 is impressive in its own right. You can check out my review of it by hitting the link in the description. I think that the Terror 9 does have, well, lots of space, lots of comfort, lots of features and a low price, and it might be appealing for you for that very reason. Same engine as this and same sort of safety suite as well. So, hey, Terror 9 could be well worth a look, and it comes with a standard 7-year warranty, whereas this one doesn't. I'll tell you about that later on. Another great affordable ute that you might want to check out is the GWM Cannon Alpha. The diesel version of that pickup truck is a big unit, but it's very, very good in a lot of different ways. I do like the Cannon Alpha a lot, but it does feel slightly unfinished compared to some of the rivals in its class, yet it does have the same sort of towing capacity and decent payload capability as well. So it could be a very good choice. Another option you might not have thought of, or maybe you have, is the KGM Musso, formerly the SsangYong Musso. It's a dual cab and it does have a couple of different versions available, including an XLV long one, and it comes with the choice of leaf springs or coils depending on which version you're picking. It's got a strong diesel engine, good towing capacity, and while it doesn't necessarily feel as high tech as this, it does come in at a lower price point. So what would you do? Have your say in the comments. Would you choose any of those? Would you go for a Kia Tasman instead? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Okay people, what do you think about the look of the MG U9? I think it's bold. I think it actually looks pretty good, but I do think that there's going to be a lot of buyers who will want to black out that grille, or maybe there'll be an aftermarket grille option, but I think it looks good in black in particular with the chrome grille, and it's certainly got some presence to it. Now, just like the LDV Terror 9, it is a unibody vehicle, so no cab chassis available. Not possible to make one either, unless you're pretty handy with a saw and welding up some finishing, but yeah, it's certainly an intriguing option and certainly more lifestyle oriented. Now, I will show you some details on your screen for the dimensions. 5.5 meters long, 3.3 meter wheelbase. So it's a big unit, no doubt about that. Bigger than a Ranger or an Amarok or a Triton or a Hilux. And if you're wondering, the off-road angles are on your screen right now. And I'll show you the ground clearance that you need to pay attention to. So because it does have the independent rear suspension with coil springs, there is a big difference when it's laden compared to unladen. Wading depth on your screen as well, and a big turning circle thanks to that big wheelbase too. So let's have a look at some of the interesting things at the back back end of this vehicle. So you're going to expect to see this little cutout in the tailgate on the high grade version. Now, let me show you. You press this button right here and it will electronically release the tailgate. Press that button right there and it will lower the step section. Then you have to manually press down that section and then you can step up and into the tub. Now the tub itself, as you can see, it's big. It does have a pretty square design. So 1600 mils long, 1600 mils wide as well. And there is enough space between the arches to fit a pallet. You've also got some interesting tie down inclusions in here, rail and racking systems and hooks as well, but no external power available. So no 12 volts, which might be a bit of a shame for some users, but that's just part of the tray situation here. So I'll step down. One other good thing about this, if you fold that away and you just need to reach something a little bit further in, look, you've got a bit more reach space than if you tried to reach over that bit. No side steps or anything like that, but let me show you what you can do with this particular version here. So it is a quirky thing, this one. So on this side, there is a pull tab, and if I do that, I can release that side. And then if I do this, I can put it down like that. So you might use that for a little bit of extra space, but I'll just lower that side and show you something else. So with that seat folded down, you do have heaps and heaps of space behind here, but you've got this button right here. So that's your mid-gate switch. So it will lower that down for you. And as you can see, you've got immensely more load space here, more load length. And hey, you could probably fit a lot more stuff in than you might be expecting if that is the case. Now, that might not be usable for everyone all the time, but it is an interesting inclusion and, well, it does offer you a little bit more flexibility. You've also got a rear window switch right there. So plenty of inclusions in this particular grade. Now, this mid-gate system, which MG calls Smart Hatch, is $5,500 extra, and it's only available on the Explore Pro version. Do you think it's worth that money? Have your say in the comments. Righto people, let's have a look at the interior of the MG U9, and I do think that this is a pretty upmarket feeling experience. This is a pre-production car, remember, but it does still have some nice finishing on the inside. One thing that I do really like is this aircraft inspired shifter. It is a bit peculiar, there's no doubt about that, but it does have a bit of a tactile feel to it, and great place to rest your hand as well. Now, there's plenty of great inclusions in this car, including a row of buttons, which you might not find in some other new vehicles out there. But you do have fan control buttons right there, lock and unlock, demisters as well, but you do still have to do some of the climate stuff on your screen. You've also got these adjusters for your temperature, but if you do want to do a little bit more than that, you can do that on your screen. Where you want the air to go, you can do it. So you can adjust where the air is going, for instance, by adjusting it on the screen. So it might take a little bit of learning, and so will most things on the screen. That's basically just part of it. You can do seat adjustment on the screen for your auto seat ventilation, so you can have it automatic or not, depending on the version you're getting. And you've also got massage function too. There's much more to cover with this screen, which I'll do in a later review, but yeah, you've got some nice backdrops, you've got some nice controls to quickly adjust things. That all comes together pretty easily, I have to say, and you'll get used to this car pretty easily. If you want to jump into that screen for your climate stuff, you can touch the side panel button there as well and adjust some other elements, as you can see. Now, this one does also have a 360-degree camera system. The top two specs come with a 360 camera, and you can see what's happening at your wheels, you can see what's happening at the tow ball as well. So that's pretty nifty, and where you can line up your trailer too. So you can also set a trailer on the vehicle, and you've got a 360 scan around view as well. So lots and lots of tech on board there, no doubt about that. And then you've got another 12.3-inch screen in front of the driver with a bit of adjustability and usability to it too. And that there is your driver monitoring camera, in case you're wondering. Now, the controls on the steering wheel, they are decent, but they are that piano black finish, so they might get a little bit gritty. And you've got some rocker switches too as well for different elements, and a steering wheel heating button depending on the version you're picking. Now, you've got paddle shifters if you want to take matters into your own hands. You've got your wipers on that side, and you've got your lights and blinkers on the right side, which is kind of good in my opinion. And let's have a look at some of the other storage stuff in here. You've got a wireless phone charger in some grades. You've also got a little storage tray on the side here. Your four-wheel drive controls are there. So you've got a four-wheel drive low range switch and front and rear diff locks on the high grade too. An electronic parking brake, pair of cup holders in between there, and you've got this center console bin, which you'd think that might pull up separately, but it doesn't. It's just a big bin with extra storage underneath. So you can have that as a tray if you want it to be, or cup holders instead, and a glass smasher in case you get stuck in water. Now down in the sides here, you'll see you've got reasonably good pockets for your bottles. Nice finish, like a marble finish on the door grabs, and yes, it does have, just like the LDV, those strange buttons, and they might take some getting used to, but you do have emergency pulls down hidden in there. The seats themselves, high grade pre-production version this car is, and it does come with real leather as standard, and you get electric seat adjustment, ventilation and heating, and a driver's seat massage function as well. So lots and lots of great features. In terms of the usability, there's some other great inclusions like some decent illuminated vanity mirrors. They don't pull out though, so that's a bit of a shame. You got hoik handles to get in, but no overhead grab handles. And this is the high grade with the suede headliner, and it also has the enormous glass sunroof, which actually opens, which is certainly something different to lots of the other utes in the segment. Some of them have a sunroof, not many of them, and not many of them have one that big with opening capability. And in the high spec, a digital camera mirror too. Now let's get into the back seat and see what the space is like. Okay, backseat space in this car is decent. Toe room's a little limited, knee room is good, and headroom is also okay, I would say. Because this one does have the big glass roof, it does get in the way quite a bit, and there are no grab handles up high, but you do have grab handles on the side. You've got a set of map pockets on the seat backs. There are decent sized bottle holders in the doors, and again, those push button door openers, nice soft elbow pads, and it's a pretty nice place to sit, I have to say. Very comfy, and there's lots of adjustability as I showed you when it comes to this particular seat layout. You've got a drop down armrest with cup holders in this grade, and you've also got outboard seat heating, as you can see down there, and a pair of USB ports, one A and one C, a little bit of storage, and a flat floor, which does make a big difference. ISOFIX points in the window seats and top tethers as well, so pretty well considered and pretty well sorted when it comes to family buyers, but also those who want a bit of comfort for their backseat riders when they're doing the business stuff. Under the bonnet of the MG U9 is a 2.5 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine. It's a new engine. It is applicable to this ute and also the LDV Terron, but in this instance it has a little bit less power, 160 kilowatts and 520 newton meters. That's still extremely class competitive for a vehicle like this, and it has an 8-speed ZF automatic transmission and a Borg-Warner 4-wheel drive system as well. So in eco mode, which is your default mode, it will be rear-wheel drive. In any of the other modes, it will be basically a 4-wheel drive high-range vehicle. But you've also got a center transfer case. There are multiple terrain modes beyond that with off-road modes. Front and rear diff locks are applicable on some versions, and yeah, it's basically, well, it's offering a lot, I have to say. And when it comes to the weights of this ute, well, 2450 to 2550 kg, so it's a heavy machine, and the payload, not as heavy hitting as you might be hoping for, 770 to 870 kilos, obviously because of that spring setup at the rear, as opposed to leaves, it is a little bit less capable when it comes to the load capacity. But towing capacity, MG claims 750 kilos unbraked and 3.5 ton braked, and I'll also put up the gross vehicle mass on your screen right now, a little bit lower than the LDV, and the gross combination mass as well. So look, what do you reckon about that? I think it's pretty good in terms of the powertrain, but let's go drive it and I'll show you what it's like in action. Now, for this review, it is primarily off-road, so no on-road driving. If you do want to see what it's like for on-road driving, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the bell, and you'll be notified when I get a chance to do a review on-road. But for this pre-production vehicle drive up here in Glenworth Valley, just about an hour north of Sydney, we're doing some off-roading, and I'm pretty impressed with the driving manners of this vehicle in a lot of different ways. Let's first talk about the suspension, because it is a bit different to other utes. It's got a, well, coil spring rear end with, you know, independent SUV-like suspension. So it's different in that regard, and it feels different too. You got a double wishbone front axle as well, and it does feel much more like an SUV to drive than some of the other utes at this kind of cash, because it doesn't have the live axle, the leaf spring setup that's designed to cope with a ton plus of weight in the back. You know, this car is more car-like. It is a ute. I keep saying car, but it is a ute. This ute is more car-like than some of the other utes out there, that's for sure. I do love this idea that you can be a ute but still be sophisticated and comfortable and pretty refined as well. Now, the steering, much like lots of other dual cabs, it's certainly not the most thrilling thing in terms of the engagement, but it does change direction reasonably well, and it's pretty trustworthy feeling when you do go through corners. And this 8-speed automatic transmission, I mean, I feel like it's doing a pretty good job of managing the gears. I haven't necessarily been up at highway speed to see how it behaves once you do a bit more asking something of the engine, but at lower speeds it seems pretty well mannered. It's just sort of jumping between the gears as it needs to. There are paddle shifters if you want to take matters into your own hands. You can put it in manual mode and really feel what's happening, but it's a ZF Auto, so they're a pretty good transmission generally. Another great thing I've found so far is the refinement levels in this car. They are very, very good. It's quiet. Unlike some other diesel 4-cylinders out there, which can make quite the racket, this one is a refined and, well, quite silent experience in a lot of situations. I've been really impressed. Now, in sport mode, you do have a different sort of sensation to the steering. The gearing is a little bit more enthusiastic, and so is your throttle response. And when you put your foot down, it does haul. It gets going very quickly. It is a faster ute than some of the others out there, I would suggest, without doing a drag strip test or anything like that. I'll leave that to Paul Marich, but I think that this is going to be surprisingly quick in urban situations. Certainly feels like it will be. Now, another thing I just have to reserve judgment for is the safety system integration, because well, this is not necessarily representative of what real driving is like, with speed signs everywhere and lane keeping and stuff like that. So as far as I can tell, the speed sign system is going to be annoying. So is the driver monitoring camera. I've had a few instances of them both going off, but hopefully MG does what it did with the S5 EV and makes it more livable by having a quick switch to turn stuff off each time you get back in, or has memory settings so it will stay saved to what you want, because some of those other vehicles that you have to turn some of the safety stuff off every single time you get back in can be frustrating to live with. One thing that might be a little bit strange to get used to for some drivers is this digital camera mirror, but there are a few different zoom modes. You can adjust it so you can set it up into a different height position, which is cool, but you've also got different zoom adjustability. So it might seem like the car is a lot closer than it is, especially if you've got it zoomed in, but when you zoom it out, it's actually a pretty true representation of just how far behind us that vehicle is. Although no actual mirror for the cars with this digital camera, it's just a camera, so that might give you the S's. You might notice in this part of the video that the footage has changed to a different coloured car. It is a dirty black car, but it is because I've switched to a different, I guess, scenario here where I'm doing a bit more of a serious thing. We're going to put it into low range. We're going to lock the front and rear differentials as well to do a river crossing and see what it's like. Now, I can feel that also this is getting a bit muckier underneath the tyres, and the tyres on this particular car have been lowered the pressures to allow it a bit more purchase on the surface below, which is what you do when you go off-roading. Give yourself as much chance to have as much grip as you can possibly muster. Really impressive bit of technology with this car is the camera system. For off-roading, there is an off-road display. It will stay on up to about 25 k's an hour with the camera system. You can have it as a see-through mode, you can have it with the vehicle in sight, you can have 3D view, you can have front view. So if you are negotiating some tricky terrain, you might be able to see more than you can actually see, which is kind of great in my opinion. Lots of other utes don't have that kind of tech, even in their $80,000 options. So great to see it on offer here. But yes, you do have to get the high spec model to get the high definition camera system, and you have to choose at least the mid spec if you want the surround view camera. Obviously when you do lock your diffs, you do have a different kind of sensation to the steering because you are locked up. Just crawling down here, I can adjust this camera mode, just hit the 360 and then I get a better forward view of what's going on ahead. Up the other side here. Yep, front and rear diff locks doing their job. That would have been difficult if that wasn't the case, I would suggest. It did that pretty easily, I've got to say. Plenty of grip with the diffs locked. Good tyre grip as well because the pressures have been lowered. So yeah, I reckon straight off the showroom floor, maybe with a set of tyres, it could be more of a weapon than you're expecting it to be. All right, a brief towing test as part of this launch program where we have about 2,600 kilos of caravan hitched up behind. So not a small van. And I have to say, I've also towed a horse float as part of this launch drive, and this vehicle feels up to it in terms of the engine for sure. It is definitely refined enough. I haven't done like highway speeds or anything, but a little bit of low speed driving. It seems to be refined and easy to maneuver, and also nice and quiet. This engine does have that characteristic to it. No real issues with the transmission while towing either. And I just think that, you know, if you're thinking about one of those vehicles that has 3.5 ton towing capacity, this one might actually appeal to you if you want a little bit of comfort as well as that, and you don't want it to be a $100,000 Nissan Patrol, for instance. So this is quite impressive in terms of the towing capability. Obviously at a later date I'll try and do a more long distance drive and see what it's like, but I do think that the tech on hand is good. You've got a really good camera system to hitch up, and also a trailer view so you can line things up and yeah, get a better idea of where you are. I'm feeling like this is going to be a pretty impressive thing when it comes to real world towing. For this short test drive with a big caravan behind, I've been pretty impressed. In terms of the ride comfort too, I mean, it does have a bit of sag at the back. You can expect that when you're hitching up this much weight, but it's certainly not feeling like it's bottoming out heaps and heaps, which is always going to be a good thing. So yeah, 8-speed automatic transmission and plenty of gears to play with, obviously, but it is seemingly at low speeds allowing this engine to do the work. The torque feels pretty prominent, and it's holding gears quite nicely. I know it's a very short drive, but still a good indication of things to come from the MG U9 when it comes to towing. Okay, what about fuel consumption? Well, I'm going to put the official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the U9 on your screen now, and I mean that is pretty typical for a diesel ute like this. And if you're wondering what I've seen, it's not necessarily representative of what you will see unless you just drive on gravel roads at 40 k's an hour maximum. Well, then yeah, this is what I saw on your screen now, and that is okay, I would suggest, perfectly acceptable for this kind of driving. Now, fuel tank capacity is on screen. It's a pretty decent tank, and yes, it needs diesel, and no, it doesn't have AdBlue, so that's one less consumable item that you have to worry about. The MG U9 has just been awarded the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating, and it's got all the spec and tech that you would expect to achieve that kind of score. So you're getting autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, there's lane keeping assistance, there's advanced cruise control with lane keep assist if you want it, there's speed sign recognition. It could be annoying, I can't tell you just yet because I haven't driven with many speed signs around, but there's also a driver monitoring camera. It can be a little bit frustrating, but hopefully MG does what it did with the S5 and puts in a quick switch to turn all that stuff off if you don't want it. But there's also other stuff beyond that. You've got blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, there is a reversing camera on the base grade, and if you step into the mid spec you get a surround view camera, same in the top spec with the off-road camera modes as well. So look, the safety stuff is pretty well covered, I would say. Hopefully it's implemented well in terms of the real world driving. But you're also getting 7 airbags, dual front side, a front center airbag to prevent head clashes, and curtain coverage for both rows of seats. So yeah, seems safe. In Australia, MG does offer a pretty good warranty, but it's a different warranty for the U9 Ute. So the standard warranty for this vehicle is 5 years and unlimited kilometres, and that's for private buyers and small businesses. But if you're a big business, a commercial buyer, if you're buying fleet numbers, you might have to abide by a different warranty, 5 years and 160,000 Ks for you. But if you do service with MG, you can get up to 7 years and 200,000 Ks of warranty, which is on par with the LDV version of this ute. Now, servicing, cap price plan, yep, you've got that, and the average service cost is on your screen over that plan. Your service intervals are every 12 months and 10,000 Ks for the first one, and then 12 months and 15,000 Ks after that. And if you're wondering about roadside assist, you'll see the details that you need to know there. So I reckon the promise here is pretty promising, especially if you are a small business or a private buyer and you are going to service it with MG, because those costs seem okay. What do you reckon? Obviously, there's still a lot more to tell you about the MG U9 in terms of the on-road drive experience and the load capability and that sort of thing, but from what I've learned so far today, I'm pretty impressed with this dual cab ute. It's different to the others out there, but also better in a lot of ways as well. What do you think? Have you say in the comments section, would you buy an MG ute? Have you been waiting for something like this from the brand? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you when I see you.